dialed in to Byron Velvick's Fishtails. Real talk, real tactics, and the stories that make it all worthwhile. Byron Velvick's Fishtails is brought to you by Livingston Lures, Trika Fishing, Mercury Outboards, and Camus Boats. Without further ado, here's Byron.
Welcome to another episode of Fishtails. I'm Byron Velvick. This is so cool because this show right now, I have on my longest, dearest, best friend. We go back 40 plus years. As crazy as that sounds, 40 plus years we've been hanging out with each other, fishing around each other. And what's cool, if you watch the show before this one with Jay Kumar, at the end of the show, we talked about getting this guy into the Hall of Fame. Like, why is he not for the Hall of Fame, the Fishing Hall of Fame? Skeet got in it, one of my roommates. My other roommate, John Murray, has not been inducted to the Hall of Fame. Kumar's over there saying, get John Murray in the Hall of Fame already. The guy is the juice. He's a legend. Goes way back. And so on this episode of Fishtails, we're going to be talking to John Murray. Real quick, checking out Fishtails, I want to say something real special here. Livingston Lures every single week, starting now. If you comment in the comment section, like our show, we're going to be picking somebody each week for a $100 pro pack of Livingston Lure baits. And then Trika Fishing is also stepping up with something cool. Another sponsor of the show. If you do subscribe to the show, we're going to pick somebody on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, and again on Christmas Day to win a brand new full combination rig Trika. That's $800 run reel combination. So real quickly, check out the subscribe, like. There's now a new feature on YouTube. I think it's called Super Like or, hyper like. Do all that, but let's get to this show. I'm pretty excited. Livingston, Trika, Mercury, Camus, they're all sponsors. This guy is the longest. He got me started with Mercury Outboards back in the day. We both been with Camus. Just a great story. John Murray, welcome aboard. Finally, I did the house cleaning. I got you in.
You got me in. Here I am. I made it. I drove all day, but I made it back.
Dude, thank you so much. I know that you're exhausted. I begged you to do the show today. You started driving at 3 a.m. this morning?
I started driving at 1 a.m. this morning, and I made it here at 1 a.m., 1 p.m. Central or Eastern time. So, yeah, about 11 and a half hour drive.
So I'm not going to fault you if this is not the high energy show it could be, but John Murray that's been 15 or 16 hours up with a 12-hour drive under his belt. Dude, that's like the old days when you were a road warrior. You're too old to be doing this like 16 hours day of driving and sorry to have you on late, but thanks for joining us, bro.
No, this is exactly what we grew up doing. So, yeah, I mean, it's like a blast out of the past. I appreciate having me on here. And, yeah, it's just no big deal because, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And I am too old to keep doing it, but I did it this one time. So we'll see how it goes.
Dude, when I drove out to the opens, I know you just drove out to Lake Mead a month or two ago. You drove out to Lake Mead and, we got there and fished the opens and it's not the same, man. You still put in 12, 14, 15, 18 hours at the maxes. I've learned about 17, 18 hours. You better shut it down. And it used to be, we could drive all the way from Southern California to Dallas. That was 22, 23 hours. But man, by the time that was done, the bushes were running past you. My dad used to joke, you're driving at night and the bushes are running by you and the street signs are going that way. And instead of going this way, it's everything's passing you because you got tunnel vision. And I know you know that from being the road warrior that we both were.
Well, it's like, oh man, I can't wait till I get to Prescott or get to Flagstaff or something. And you look, you went through that town like an hour ago. You didn't even know. Whoops, where am I? I don't even know where I'm at, I can't wait to get to that town. I already threw it. Yeah, that's common.
That was
when
the
we
same.
drove.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All the Arizona towns, the New Mexico towns, they all became a blur to me. So, man, having you on the show, check it out. The pinball machine. You know the reason we call the thing Fishtails? Because that pinball machine right there at the old John Murray, Byron Velvick Money House in Boulder City, I tell Skeet and everybody, Aaron Martins had all the high scores on that thing until I unplugged it. Like I ruined it by not having a battery in there to save the high scores from Aaron. You remember he spent hours on that machine behind you right there?
Hours, yes.
We
He had to have
cheated.
the high scores.
Yeah,
Huh?
he got mad. You're right. He got mad.
Yes.
If somebody else took a high score, he got violently angry about it.
Yes, he was not going to stand for that because, we started at the Sunset with what was that other one we had in Sunset? we'd all be gambling, and he'd be in the arcade playing that Sega Fish or whatever, and setting all the records in that. I mean, he just was focused on the fishing games. He loved it.
Yeah, the fishing game. I remember that Sega fishing game. We used to go to Sunset
Sega,
Station. It was a virtual arcade
yeah,
fishing game that was insane. And so we were all hooked on. We'd gamble a little bit, and then we'd go to the arcade at the casino, and it was that whole. You pick out your lure, your line. That was a high tech game. I forgot all about that till you just reminded me.
yeah. If you couldn't find Aaron, you knew where he was. He was in the arcade. He wasn't out gambling. He was in the arcade playing that game.
Yep. And what's funny about this, so I've told the story a couple times. Fishtails, the whole concept of the podcast comes because I got this cool pinball machine that Donna Casase had delivered to the house. Because we used to have, what was the name of our team? It was angling, advanced angling. Was that it? Or we had a name of the team that we had. The Donna Casase put that team together, and I can't remember the
Creative
name of it.
angles.
It's
Creative angles.
Creative Angles, Donna Casase, the power broker, casino executive that decides she's going to represent you, me, I think Robert Lee, John Murray, Skeet, all of us. We were this team of
Aaron.
Creative Angles, dude. Aaron. Yep.
Aaron. Yeah. And we are gonna
Yep.
get blacked out. Chevy
Luxor.
Tahoes
Luxor.
and blacked out boats and have these cool teams. We had all the plans, didn't we?
Oh my God, she was going to sell us to Luxor or the State Line, the State Line Casino. She had all the casinos lined out. I'm like, we're going to be rolling big if this works. That was like
Big.
John Curry before John Curry. Forget
Yeah.
about Crown Royal and the Coca-Cola deal. Donna Casase had it in her crosshairs to hook us up with the major casino sponsors, and we were all going to look like In-N-Out Burger. We were talking about In-N-Out Burger sponsorship.
Yeah.
Luxor.
We had a lot of plans.
Whiskey Pete's Casino. Oh my
There you
gosh,
go.
it's a walk down memory lane. So Ski was on the show. We were talking about you and I and him were rooming together. God, we got so many stories we could talk about. You and I cleaning the dishes. Skeet did the cooking. We drank all his expensive wine, and you and I would sit there at the sink and wash the dishes while Skeet enjoyed a nice glass of wine or a bottle of wine.
He's definitely the chef, and yeah, the way he cooks, I'll clean his dishes anytime because man, that guy knows how to cook and he feeds you well. So I learned a lot staying with him all those years cooking wise. I'm still nowhere near the chef he is, but I definitely learned a lot.
It was so fun to watch Skeet cooking. I mean, it's
Yep,
an unknown fact that you and I could smell everything. He'd get everything together. We're like, this is so cool that we're gonna have a great dinner. And if the price of admission is washing dishes, sign
we're good.
sign us up, man. It was good. So where
Yes.
have you been? You just got home. Tell the audience. I know you told me a little bit, but you just drove 12 hours in today. What did you just do, and what's up next for John Murray?
So we have a pro baseball tournaments. There are charity events around the country that the baseball players, the MLB baseball players, actually sponsor, and they're benefiting charities. This one was Jace Peterson down in Louisiana, and it benefits the Big Boys, Big Sisters, Big Brothers program. I mean, it's an unbelievable little charity thing. 10 baseball players, 10 pro fishermen, and then 10 sponsors. And you go out and fish for 2 days. We were on Grosse Savon down there in Louisiana, and fishing was awesome. And we just had a good time. They had great Cajun food every night. They treat you good. They raised a lot of money for the charity, and just sort of the fun side of fishing. Wasn't out there any pressure, just to have a good time. We have one next week at Gunnersville, another one. So yeah, they're gonna try to set one up in Texas. So yeah, they're a cool little deal, and you get to meet. I've always been a baseball freak. Everyone knows that. So meeting some of these baseball guys, hearing their stories, it's just a fun time to be out there.
And hey, you know what's so funny? Murray, you're so different than me. It's Modest Murray. You're not mentioning that you finished second in the event. Like you did well, and I'm laughing because I'm like, I think I would have started with saying, "Oh, we had this thing down at Grosse Pointe. I finished second, by the way." But you had a good tournament. I mean, with the baseball player, you had a good day, didn't you?
We had a great day, and then really the only thing you're fishing for is that first place. They give these awesome gold rings out if you win one, and I got second. Alton Jones Jr. beat me, and Alton Jones Jr. got second last year, so he sort of deserved winning this year. He beat me by .18, so it wasn't even
Oh,
an ounce. So but it was fun, and yeah, you're just fishing for the pride, and the baseball players are really the ones. They had a Calcutta going. My guy bought our team for $1,500, and they all
wow.
bought their teams for a lot of money. and they end up giving all that money to the charity, all that money that went in. So yeah, it's just a good fun event.
Wow. If they have one in Texas and I can be invited, I'd love to fish it. I don't know if that where it's going to be in Texas, but if you know the people and they're going to do it in Texas, let me know. I maybe I can jump in it, but
We know the
who kno-
people.
yeah, I would love to be a part of it
We'll
if it's in
get you in. We'll
Texas.
get you
I
in.
I can't go very far, but I can here in Texas. As you know, I had to pick up Cameron from school and race home, and you're at mom's house right now. You're at your mom's house. I love it. How's mom doing?
Yeah, I bought my mom a house out here in Tennessee. So she's a southern girl now, I guess you'd call her. But yeah, she had a little tough time with the daylight savings change because she's lived in Arizona for 50, 60 years. She's never had to change clocks. So it was a
Oh,
little shocking for her that I said, hey, we had to change the time last night. So she's learning all that stuff. She's doing well. She's 88. And I spend a lot of time over here taking care of her and making sure everything's good. But she's still sharp and keeps
88, and she's
after it.
still
That's all you can
sharp.
ask for.
88, she's still just
Yeah,
doing
she has a
great.
little. There's a few things she does. She remembers important stuff, but she tends to forget some stuff that common stuff that. But she's pretty good. Yeah, we have a good time.
How's her physical thing? Is she moving around good? Is she bouncing around? So is she doing well physically?
No, she's got a walker. She gets around and she's got exercises she does every day. But she's not springing around anywhere. She's fallen a couple times back here when I've been gone, and she's had a couple hospital stays. But overall, she's been it's a good move. I just couldn't watch her. I mean, I'm the only son. I'm the only kid, so it was me to watch her, and so we just moved her out here to Tennessee and bought her a house not too far from the other house, and so she sees TJ all the time, and that sort of helps a lot.
Oh, that's great. It's parallel lives because I know my mom is watching this show. She's a huge fan of yours. And so was my dad before he passed. But my mom is going to love the fact that we're doing a podcast together. Same thing. She's on a walker. She's sharp as a tack. She's doing great. She's 83. I think she's 5 years younger than your mom. But she's getting around and she's a huge fan of the show. She's the first person to call me when the shows come out to tell me I have a bad habit. I have a bad habit of wiping my face. She's like, you gotta stop, you gotta start editing every time you rub your face. And I mean, all my nervous ticks, my mom's sure to tell me what they
She knows
are.
them.
She's watching
Yeah,
it because now mom gets to see me every week. And we go visit her as much as we
right.
can. So we're going out there for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And yeah, it's gonna be great. But you're guiding now. So you and I, dude, I gotta ask you. Interstate 10, I can see it from here. I'm living right next to Interstate 10 on this like little 6 acre property in Bernie, Texas. And I'm super close. I can throw a rock right now and the road. You and I have driven down that road a million times, I-10, coming into San Antonio, right? Did you ever think you'd live in Tennessee? Because I never thought I'd live in Texas. And I've been
Yes.
back and forth on this road a million times. If you would have told me back then, dude, you're going to live right here off I-10 in Bernie, Texas someday, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, California, Nevada, Arizona with you. Is it blow you away you're living in Tennessee now?
It really did. I always thought I was going to be in Arizona, born, raised, dead, whole thing in Arizona, because I drove it so many years. It was not a big deal. The problem was when you have a family and those 2 or 3 extra days traveling every time, that's just 2 or 3 extra days you're never getting back to spend, especially when TJ was little. So yeah, I definitely everything changed when TJ was born. Just as far as wanting to spend more time and wanting to raise him in a more on a lake out in the country. We were in Phoenix. You know where I lived. I lived in Phoenix, so it was more of a city life there, and I really wanted him to have a more of a country life. So that's what changed for me. But yeah, I went down 10 this morning, and I haven't been down 10 in a long time, but I was down there this morning
Yep,
driving.
yep. Not far from here, but it still blows my mind that you and I have made that move because we were such West Coast guys. And for the viewers that don't realize, we talked about this. If you watch the Jay Kumar show, this guy right here was winning tournaments before he had a driver's license. And John, if you would have seen Jay Kumar's reaction was like, what? Your mom used to take you to tournaments, not pro-am, not kid tournaments, pro tournaments, and you're underage getting dropped in and beating those guys.
Yeah, just they'd drop the boat in and they'd park the truck, and then my mom and dad would drive back in the car and leave the truck on the bank, and I'd camp in the truck and fish the tournament, and then they'd come up on Sunday and pick everything up, and we'd go home. But yeah, it was awful fun. That was one reason. You know, I always said I want to live on a lake, and so now I do. So I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to drive to a lake and do all that. But yeah, it's sort of a crazy story. My son's got his first boat when he was 12, so it's basically the same thing. I got mine when I was 13, and yeah, that's when I learned everything about fishing back then.
But you were dominant. Here's the thing, like, I'm this kid getting into college. My mom didn't get me a boat. I had to buy Jay Ellis's old Skeeter, and I'm trying to hobble pieces together, trying to get a boat. And you're out there winning tournaments at 15, 16, 17 Arizona, beating all the old timers, and the Westy Worms and everything else. It was like you were crushing. And when I talked to Kumar about this, they go, people don't realize John Murray's pedigree as a tournament angler, always a pro draw, never a pro-am, always a pro draw. Man, it started as far back as he was a underage kid, like I said, no driver's license fishing kind of guy, and it just morphed, man. Where that was your bread and butter was crushing the West.
Yeah, but I'd fish in 50, 60, 70 tournaments a year. I'd fish Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Friday night, Saturday. I mean, I just fished everything there was. And literally we were on the cutting edge. I mean, back then, if you put the time on the water, you'd win because you knew more than everybody else. There was no information. There was no information on the West Coast about bass fishing. I guess you had a couple little newspapers that did some stuff, but yeah, you had to learn by yourself out there. There's no YouTube. There was no watching any shortcuts. You had to learn. I had some great teachers. Art Price, was a great teacher of mine. Really influenced how to approach tournaments. He won a lot of money, and so yeah, I was ate up with it from the first year of high school on. I fished everything I could. Once I got my truck, I mean, I was gone. So yeah, that was the difference. We could put the time in, and you'd win a lot. And I remember so many times going out after school, finding a school fish, and winning the tournament the next weekend.
That's so funny you say that because I remember what you said about there was no information. You remember I was bed fishing before anybody was bed fishing. And I remember you said, don't tell anybody. Stop doing articles about this. Because, I would do an article. This is before the swim bait thing, but sight fishing, because that's where I started. I mean, I won my first US Open, the check back there, but that was a sight fishing tournament. That was when they had the US Open in April. And it was right after Bassmaster. Remember Bassmaster came to Lake Mead? And we're walking around the casinos getting everybody's autograph, like Del Rowland and Rick Clunn and Denny Brower. They're all at the casino. And then after the Bassmaster event, to your point, I'm driving around. I got to tell this story. I'm driving around during Bassmaster and nobody is bed fishing. Everybody's out there. David Fritz is out there throwing a pose crankbait at Lake Mead, and every pro that we know is Carolina rigging and doing all of their East Coast stuff. And bedfish were everywhere. And during the Bassmaster, I was a fan during the evenings, but during the day, I'm like, how can these guys not be bed fishing? You remember that?
Oh yeah, that was a big turning point for a lot of guys, because yeah, Lake Mead wasn't just beds everywhere. That was the difference. Those guys, I think, were used to seeing a bank with 30 beds on it. And Lake Mead, if you had one bed on one bank, you had a great bank. So you had to work hard to get enough fish to, supply a 3-day tournament sight fishing. So yeah, that was a big term. I think I got 6 in the one you won, and I didn't bed fish. I flipped the first day way up the Overton and didn't catch them. And then the
Yeah.
last 2 days I did sight fish and caught them good. But yeah, that's the difference. I think I used to, I taught classes, community college bass fishing classes, and people go, "Hey, can you catch those fish when they sit up on bed?" No, if they don't bite first cast, you can't catch them. That was
Right.
my standard answer. Cast at them. If they bite, they bite. Don't, that's it. So yeah, I never told anybody anything about sight fishing. That was a no-no. Don't teach people
And
how
you
to
and
catch them.
and you were telling me like stop talking about it. One of my favorite U.S. Open stories about that tournament right there was I was leading it by 3 pounds going into the last day, and you walked up to me that morning, John. I don't know if you remember this, and we're at the dock. You go, "Can you catch 5 today?" And I kept driving, and I laughed because I had never bed. I knew there were beds all the way around Black Island in the lower basin. But nobody was fishing that island. You remember Black Island right in the middle of the lower basin?
You're
I
right.
think it's called
Yep.
Black Island or Black, whatever it's called. But it's that one big island down near the wash, and there were beds all the way around it. I never saw a boat on that island the whole time. So every day of the U.S. Open, I would drive by, I'd look over, and I'm like, "There's not even a boat over there, dude. Not even a boat." So on the last day when you said, "Can you catch 5?" I'm like, Dude, I got one spot that I haven't even been to yet, and it was that whole island, and that island was full of beds, and I was like, "I can catch 5," and they go, "If you catch 5, I'll net." John, you said, "If you catch 5 today, you win." And I got
5,
shivers even now
you win.
because I go, "I can catch 5 today. It's not even a question." Like, I had my 5th fish
Sure.
by 11 o'clock that morning, and you were like, you kind of you ordained me. The guru, John Murray, said, "Catch 5, you win," and I'm like, "Bro, I can catch 5."
Right, that's
26
right,
years
and
old,
that's what it
buddy.
was back then. There's hard, I'd got second in the US Open when I was 20. So, I mean, I'd fished those US Opens for a long time. Now
Yeah.
that changed over to the one bass thing, but I fished the original ones a lot. And so I'd seen how tough, when I got third, my first time I got third, me and Gary Klein were the only guys that caught 5 each day out of the 200 guys. I know how tough mead used to be. People don't understand how tough Lake Mead used to be. You catch
Right.
5, you were a hero.
Right. Yeah. And to your point, and when you and I did this, that used to be like an ATM for us, John, because we would go out and by the third day, guys were just running out of fish. And you come in the third day
Right.
with a couple good ones. And I remember Mike Folkstad, I think, won the one that I got second or third in. There were seconds and thirds, Yamamoto's and all that stuff. But I remember I didn't even yeah, the guys that were leading the last day all fell apart. And I only had 4. If I would have caught one more fish, I would have won that open. It was just another one, but I came in with 4 and I go, I got 4, probably like 10 or 11 pounds. They're good ones, but no big ones. And they're like, dude, if you got 10 pounds, you're going to win. And I'm like, no way, I only got 4. And then you're kicking yourself because, and this, one fish short of another US Open win, just
One
because
fish.
you cut and you're trying to win. You're thinking you need 5 for 15 or 5 for 13. You come with 4 for 10 or 11 and they're like, dude, you might win this. And you're like, no, I only got 4. They're like, no,
Right.
everybody sucked today. Everybody sucked. And you know as well as I do, it's like, oh my gosh, there were so many wide open windows to win more of those. You and I had so many near misses.
Yes, a lot. But my favorite sight fishing story is you and I keeping it from Aaron Martins all those years. Because we'd whoop him every sight fishing year. He'd whoop us the rest of the year, but we never told him for how many years. And then we got the smart idea of telling him. I remember at Lake Havasu, we finally told him, "You dummy, we've been catching sight fishing. You don't know how to do it." And I think that was the last time we ever beat him sight fishing ever. But yeah, we
Right.
kept that from Aaron for, a couple of years. That was our secret little moneymaker from Aaron, and then we got a little full of ourselves and thought we could tell him and still beat him, and that did not work well.
One of the greatest compliments I ever got, you don't even know it happened, but Mary Delgado from The Bachelor drew you in a tournament. It was Mary, the girl I met on The Bachelor, and she was in the boat with you at a tournament. She drew you and you were bed fishing. And Mary goes, you know what he said? He said, if Byron was here, he'd know how to catch this fish. And Mary was like getting really cool about it. She's like, John actually gave you credit. Like she goes, if Byron was here right now, this is Byron. What I'm doing right now is Byron's forte. And that was cool that Mary gave me that information. She's like, John was working a bed fish and he's like, dang, if your boyfriend was here, he'd probably tell he could catch this. Because we used to look at him, and like to your point, people thought they were sick. When I went back east, people said if there was a fish there on a bed, it was sick, and you probably couldn't catch it. The southern guys would walk up and say, "Man, if you can see a bass, it's probably not doing very well." Remember those days?
Oh yeah, that's what they thought. Bobby Garland and those guys were way ahead of everybody on that deal.
Yep.
He taught Guido Hibden how to do it, and it went crazy after that.
People don't realize the infancy of sight fishing, but we've beat that subject to death. Hey, I got a question for you. So we got all these little features, and one of the features, which I can't wait to hear yours because I don't know it. You probably heard mine before. I won't even repeat it, and I know the listeners have heard mine. But the best worst hook story that you've had, like. Everybody has a great hook story. So the worst thing that happened to you, whether it was you snagged somebody snagged you, best worst hook story is the segment.
Well, that's pretty easy for me. About 5 years ago, we got a little puppy. His name's Shiner. He's a little COVID dog. He's our favorite dog. I've always had dogs that fish with you, sit on the boat, fish with you. Well, I took my aunt and uncle out fishing with Shiner, and he's not even a year. He's probably 6 months old. And we're spooning fish. We're catching the heck out of 'em. And for some reason, that little dog walked up and just bit one of the blade baits right on the boat and just went nuts. I mean, he went
Oh.
flying out of the boat. My aunt grabbed him and pulled him in, and I'm trying to just pull the hooks out. He's screaming, and finally I just ripped the hooks out. He went in the bottom boat, and he hates fishing ever since. And I'd never seen anything like the dog just went up and bit the lure on its own, and so
And then jumped in
I
the
was
water?
traumatized. A little puppy. I mean, I just felt horrible. He
And then he
jumped in the
jumped.
water. Thankfully, my aunt had grabbed him and held him. If it was just me with him, I don't know what I'd have done because he had hooks in his man, just going crazy. Yeah,
Oh
it
my
was horrible. It
gosh.
was it was very traumatic for him and for me.
Wow. So a lot of people watch this. We're on Spotify and all the other streaming channels. So a lot of people listen to this, but I need you to send me a picture of Shiner because that's going to be a perfect spot
I
to put
will.
a picture of Shiner in the. No, I know you didn't take a picture when he had hooks in his mouth, but when you reference your little dog, I'm like, oh, we got to get Shiner on the show. That's got to happen. My mom will thank you for putting your dog on this show. She'll love that. So, so what's up next? Now you're guiding, right? So how do people get a hold of you? This is something really cool. I want everybody to know. You have a chance to fish with John Murray. So how do we get a hold of you? How does that? I want to put all your information. I'm going to put it in the description. I'm going to put it here on the screen. But people want to hire you to spend a day on the water. Hear way more than just the stories we're telling now. You can tell stories that Byron, Skeet, John stories that we are not going to tell today if you hire John Murray to go fishing with him. So how do we go fishing with you, John?
JohnMurrayFishing.com. It's got my website. It's got a section on there for guiding. And yeah, you can get on there. Fishingbooker.com has me on it in Tennessee. I guide on Watts Bar Lake primarily, which is the lake I live on in Tennessee, just outside of Knoxville. And I also guide on Chickamauga. So once in, some guys like to go to Chickamauga. The big fish live there. I prefer Watts Bar, but yeah, I do some trips on Chickamauga too. I've done trips to Dale Hollow. There's a lot of good lakes right around here. So yeah, just johnmurrayfishing.com and get a hold of me.
And you had me guys, I had a couple of guys get a hold of me to do swim bait fishing. Like I think I have two things that would be a niche for me: the sight fishing guiding, which I did before, and swim bait fishing guiding for these young guys, especially these young guys that are on tour, that are getting on tour and they want to fish with a pro. So this one kid, he fished with me for swim baits. He said, I don't care if we catch them or not. I want 2 days with you just to learn everything you know about swim baits on the water. And he drew Tommy Biffle for flipping. Is there a specialty that you have that young guys that are watching this that want to become pros, that want, like if you want to become a pro, I'll take you sight fishing and swim bait fishing? What would be your forte? And have you had guide trips where you've done that, where you've done more instructional than let's catch a lot of fish?
I did a lot of instructional in Arizona because I was so well versed in all the lakes down there. And I did a lot of technique stuff. Since I taught classes down there, I did a lot of technique stuff. Now, the technique stuff, as far as I'm concerned, I got videos all over, telling a lot of stuff about it. You might see personal ups up. I've always been sort of known as a finesse guy, drop shot, that kind of guy. And a deep water guy. Well, the deep water sort of got ate up by this live scope stuff. So there's not really any specialty that I can offer to that. You can take a scope out in deep water and everything's there for you. You don't need to know anything about it. So, yeah, a lot of my specialties have sort of got ate up, but I just I really enjoy taking people that have never caught a fish out. I got one tomorrow or Saturday, an 8-year-old boy. He's so jacked up to go fish. He hadn't caught hardly anything. And I don't know what we're going to catch, but we're going to catch some fish. And those are the kind of trips I like right now. I don't, I'm not into the trying to catch a world state record or catch a ton of fish. Just go out there and fishing and see what you can catch type of deals.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Fishtails. Appreciate you checking us out. Also, check out the Livingston Lure app if you get a chance. All kinds of great information on there. And be sure to subscribe and to like Fishtails. Back to the show. That's great that you're doing the guide trips where you're actually taking people out, having more fun with more kids and everything else now. That's your passion, is just to get people on fish more than anything else, probably.
Yeah, and this high school stuff, fishing with TJ the last couple of years has been amazing for me. And everyone's like, "How can you just sit there and watch them fish?" I mean, I have the best time watching those kids fish, and when they catch one and they're high five and they're jumping around, or they lose a big one, and then you can just sort of feel it with in your bones. You've done it a million times. That is really my highlight right now is fishing the high school. I got a year little over a year left of doing it, so I'm enjoying all the high school stuff I can do.
My gosh, how's TJ doing right now? Like he's fishing a lot of tournaments, isn't he?
He's kicking butt. Yeah, he's done well. He's been very consistent. He's a very good scoper, and he's a very good fisherman. He loves to throw a frog and flip. So I mean, yeah, he enjoys it. Got a great team partner. They're just having a good time doing it, and that's the point right there.
Dude, isn't it crazy? You said something earlier. Live scoping and scoping, we used to think about migratory points. We used to think that if a fish swam across the lake, he followed the bottom, and that we had to find the creek channels. We had to find and if you could find the right hump and the fish all swam around it, you were going to kill it. We didn't think they were pelagic, swimming out over 70 foot of water in 20, 30 foot of water all over the lake. That's a foreign concept to you and I. I mean, we grew up with topographical maps, migratory points, fishing deep, and they would be glued to the bottom. How many fish did we drive over to do that?
Yeah, and they're not necessarily 20 feet down. They're 5 feet down over 100 feet of water swimming in the middle of the lake with no bait around, and there's a bass there. And you're like, what? And I watch these guys catch them. And yeah, it's just a different world. They're fishing for fish we never had a clue were there. I mean, we saw trollers out there catching them, once in a while. But yeah, I had no clue that there's that many out there all the time. I mean, I figured they had to be somewhere, but you don't, think they're just out there swimming around in the middle of nowhere. But that's where they are.
It's funny, John. Before live scoping, and I had Lake Amistad Resort, we had Lake Amistad going on. We had all the tournaments out there. Bob Seeley came out to Lake Amistad and was driving around fishing. He wasn't having a good time. He wasn't catching them. This is indicative of what you just talked about. And these little fish are schooling in the middle of Lake Amistad. The little baby ones are just schooling on bait. And he's like, I'm bored. What the heck? I'll just go catch the little schoolers out there in the middle of the lake. And he could see them schooling. So he throws a spoon out there and he catches a 12-incher and he catches another 8-incher and he throws out there and he's catching them. And he throws the spoon out there. And all of a sudden he goes like that. And he goes, I can't be snagged. What the heck is that? He catches 1 over 10 at Lake Amistad. To your point, literally 12 foot under the surface, out over 80 foot of water with little schoolers all swimming around. That was the future of that. That's a forward facing sonar fish now, but a 10-pounder out in the middle of the lake. He goes, and he's scratching his head. He's like, Byron, why would there be a 10-pounder out there? And I go, well, maybe he was up there eating the schooling bass. Like maybe he was just attracted to the schooling fish. We were both trying to wrap our head about how you catch a 10-pounder on a spoon out in the middle of the lake like that. And I'm like, now, duh. It's like that's the live scoper's paradise for us, for them.
Well, Alamo Lake in Arizona, same way. Used to be all these fish at 15 feet across the whole lake, and I'd graph them, and there'd be 50 feet deep. So I just started taking a jig, smoke sparkle jig, dropping it 15 feet below my boat with my trolling motor, and just killing them. Trolling right under the boat. I knew they were out there, but there's so many fish, it was easy to do. But yeah, now it'd even be stupid if you had that technology out there.
Oh my gosh, so true, so true. I know I've kept you up late. I feel bad. I've been chopping this show up. We're gonna do another. You will do a second segment with me, right? You'll come back for a second piece because I want more time with you when you're not tired. I feel like I know I'm keeping you up, bro. The one last feature we have, and it's probably the most popular feature in the show. It's called The One That Got Away. You're going to love it when you see it. If you haven't watched the show, this part, I have Jim Bitter fumbling that one fish that cost him the Bassmaster Classic. Yeah. So that's the lead into The One That Got Away. Dave Mercer, I should have stuck with YouTube instead of going after the Golden Moose Award with Outdoor Channel. Rick Clunn, Tiva Sandals, and the Thumb Bar. Rick Clunn invented the Thumb Bar for Daiwa and Shimano. He goes, why did he not get money for a Thumb Bar on a reel? And then again for a fish, like for Bill Dance. Bill Dance was the one fish that he lost that would have won him another Bassmaster Classic back in the day. What's John Murray's? That's it. I'm leading up to it. All right, John Murray, what is the one that got away?
The memory still haunts him. He lost by 2 ounces.
Mine's an easy one, too. We used to have those majors, where there's 50 guys. First place was $250,000. And we had one up at Oneida Lake in New York. And we qualified on Oneida Lake, and then we went to a lake called Onondaga. They didn't let you pre-fish. You just drove around and looked, and then you picked a spot and you fished. So I picked a post out in the middle of this creek, and they count you down, and then you make your cast. Well, I had 2 jigs on my deck, a flipping jig and then a casting jig that I'd qualified 3rd place with. and there's this post. It's just a telephone pole out in the middle. And I pick up the football jig, and they go 3, 2, 1, and I throw it to this thing. It goes down about a foot and just stops. I set the hook, and this fish comes up. We don't know what's in this lake. No one ever fished it, and none of us. And it's like a 6 or 7 pound. It's a giant, and he's fighting, he's jumping. And I'm like, first cast, I'm fighting, and he's by the boat, and he straightens the jig hook out because I'm using just a football. I hadn't caught a fish over 3 pounds in Oneida, and I'm just shocked. I pick up my flipping stick, I make 5 flips to that thing, and I catch 5 3-pounders, and I limit out on the big flipping jig. And I'm like, that if I'd have just picked up the flipping jig first, I caught big fish for the tour. I caught a 5'10", and this one was way bigger. And I got 3rd place. I was by 1.5 pounds. I would have won it was a 200. I got 30 grand. So it was a $220,000 fish because I picked up the wrong rod. And on top of it, that fish suspended by that post the rest of the 2 days of the tournament, and guys saw it, and they like Dave Wolak goes, John, did you see that? I go, dude, I hooked that fish. I had that one on. He's like, no way, man. It's the biggest fish I've ever seen in this lake. And to this day, I'm just like, if I'd have just picked up the other rod, I'd have won $250,000.
Oh, dude, that is an amazing one that got away. That's an awesome story.
Brutal.
Dude, that's
Straight in the
heartbreaking in
hook.
every way, shape, and form. Dude, I got to tie
It
that
was
into it.
brutal.
So, dude, the one that got away, I tell the story about you at Lake Shasta. You saw the world record spot at Lake Shasta on a guy's stringer, right?
Trolling. They were trolling.
Tell me the story. I know the story, but I want everybody on Fishtails to hear the story. I've told this story, dude, 100 times if I told it once. Tell me the whole story at Lake Shasta, bad weather, everything. I want you to tell it to the audience.
Well, yeah, it was one of those tournaments where the lake's coming up. We've had rain for 5 days. It's like February. Catching 1.5 pound spotted bass I was fishing by the bridge right there, the 15 bridge. Everyone fishes there, the rock piles. And this troller kept coming by. And finally, he's fishing for trout. I go, hey, have you caught any? He goes, man, I caught a big old bass. I'm like, oh, cool. And he aisles by and he lifts it out of the water. And I'm thinking it's a largemouth. I mean, this thing's 10 or 12 pounds. It's giant. It's a spotted bass, and he's going to eat it. I go, dude, that's, he goes, oh, it's going to fry just fine, and he just kept going, man. It's the biggest spotted bass I'd ever seen. He lifted on his stringer right in front of me. I'd never seen anything that big. And yeah, he's trolling for trout and caught a giant world record was, I think, 815 out of Lewis Smith Lake. So it was definitely 9 or 10 pounds, and it was a spot. So yeah, I never saw the guy again. I guarantee it never saw a scale. It saw a frier's all it saw.
I remember what you said about that story. One part you said was you were fishing the tournament day, and you knew for a fact when you came into the weigh-in, somebody was going to say the world record spot just got caught. Like you expected when you got in. It's like, dude, just tell me he came in, and before he went to go eat it, he weighed it. But they're like, dude, did anybody come to the marina with a 9 or 10 or 12 pound spot? Like, what the heck? But it got troll again. There's a live scope fish out in the middle of the lake trolling for trout, and you catch the world record spot. That's a future live scope fish right there.
Yep, exactly what it was.
Okay, we're gonna have John Murray part 2. I have kept you up way too long. You have been a trooper, and I got so many more stories to share with you. Skeet, you and I are gonna do this again. Man, thank you for being a dear friend for 40 plus years. Hall of Fame. Get this guy into the Hall of Fame. If anybody's watching this show that knows anybody that has any input, I want to go to the Hall of Fame ceremony. Skeet and I both are like number 1 on the list to vote you in, bro. You are owed an induction into the Hall of Fame. If anybody wants to go fishing with John Murray, I'm going to have all the information on the description. I'll have it on the show. Go out fishing with John Murray. He's probably the greatest guy in the world you could hire for a day of fishing. Please look him up if you're anywhere in his area. And bro, we're going to do this again, but get some sleep, my friend.
Well, I thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
All right, dude. It's great having you on the show. Good night. Get some sleep. Tell Mom I said hi. Mom, I love you, Mom. John Murray, I love John Murray's mom.
Fishtails has been brought to you by Livingston Lures. Learn more at livingstonlures.com. Fishtails is also supported by these fine sponsors: Trika Fishing, Mercury Outboards, and Canis Boats.